Alright, good morning, boys and girls. It's Tech Tuesday. I'm your host, Daniel Ocean, and today we're knocking over a casino. But first, we're going to do a little pivot table tutorial because no Excel YouTube channel is complete without it. So, we have a blank records and a blank chart. Let us hop over to this document, which you guys can't see. And let's grab a whole bunch of data. And let's plop her down right about here. Okay, so here's some production data from about 10 years. It's like 810 lines of dates, employee numbers, employee names, shift, the type of production they're doing, the pieces, setup time, run time, work order, sequence, due dates, a bunch of stuff. So first thing we're going to do when working with a pivot table is we're going to convert this data into a table. Let's do shift control down, arrow over, release shift and control, and let's insert a table. Okay, now it's going to ask where is your data located. It recognized it because we have a nice clean cut block of rows and columns. It recognized that it starts in B10 and goes to T812. We have a header row with the date, employee ID, employee shift type, F type pieces. That's our header row, so we want to make sure that this is checked because my table has headers. Then it's going to put in this nice little blue, I don't know about that blue. Why don't we throw a little John Deere green in there? Bam! So now, this chunk of data that we have is an actual table. We can change the name of it to whatever we want. It automatically made it the next table in the document, table 25. We can do all kinds of things. We can hide our filter buttons if we want because we don't really care what order this data is in. We just want to select a cell somewhere in our table and we want to insert a pivot table. This one right over here. We could insert a pivot chart and pivot table at the same time, but perhaps that might be too long for my 10-minute window I'm shooting for here. So let's just do a single pivot table. Our range is the data that we are going to use in our pivot table, and it's table 25. It's automatically detected it because we had a cell in row 20 selected when we chose to create a pivot table. Now we can do this in a new worksheet and it'll automatically create a new sheet down at the bottom, call it sheet 1. Or we can do an existing location. Let's do an existing worksheet, and if we click on this location, it allows us to arrow over and select a cell where we want our pivot table to be created. Select our cell, hit enter, hit OK, and we have, I wanted to do it one cell above that. Let's delete these out. Shift cells up. Okay, so now we have a pivot table. That's what a pivot table looks like. Not very exciting, but we're going to make it exciting. Let us throw some dates in and see what that looks like. Okay, well somebody's been in here sorting data already, grouping data already in preparation. So let's ungroup that. Now when you guys first do it, it's most likely going to look like this. It's going to have every single date that shows up in our data source, in our table, is going to be over here in our pivot table. And what do we want to look at? How about let's do what do we have? We have some setup hours for our production facility and we have some run hours for our production facility. If we throw them over there, it's automatically doing the sum of the setup. Now if you wanted to, you could click on this down arrow and you could change the value field setting, this is a field, to count. So instead of summing our setups, we'd count our setups. So on April 4th, we had 3 setups. On June 24th of 2011, we had 5 setups. And we don't want to count them for this example. We can sum, we can count, we can average, max, min, product. We can do a whole list of things. We're just going to sum them up. So on 5/18, we had a total of 0.6 hours of setup time. If there are multiple entries for 5/18, which there isn't, it's going to add them all up. And then that's going to be displayed right here, sum of setup. And that's basically, in a nutshell, how fast and easy it is to make pivot tables. We can come over here, we can select one of our row labels, and we can choose to group it by months and years. Now we have 2010, May, June, September. We have our months and years. So you can see that we had a 2 hours of setup time in 2010, 3.5 hours of setup time in 2011. We can come down here to 2019, 31 hours of setup time. 2018, 61 hours of setup time. Runtime, 2019 we ran for 255 hours, and you can see your totals for this 10-year block of data. We did 243 hours of setup, 1,294 hours of runtime, and that's basically it. 6-minute video. It's getting pretty long. I wanted to do 1 or 2 more quick things. Slicers. Slicers are the most amazing thing ever. So let's insert a slicer. If we have a piece of data in our pivot table selected, it's automatically going to try and insert a slicer using that data. Now, what do you want to slice? How about employee ID? Perfect. There's a whole bunch of employees here. Okay. That's kind of a bad example. Is there something better we could do? Insert, slicer. Whoops. Make sure you have your cell in here selected. And let's do insert, slicer. Well, let's look at what we got here. Shift, employee, employee ID. How about Work Center? There we go. That one looks a little bit better. So now with a slicer, now these are like interactive buttons. If you want to see Work Center 5405 did 3 hours of setup time and 73 hours of run time. Select a different Work Center. 5 hours of setup, 41 hours of run. 5505. Can we collapse all these? This is a professional channel, ladies and gentlemen, that's for sure. 5505 did 234 hours of setup and almost 1,100 hours of run. If you want to select this area, 0.2 hours of setup and 80 hours of run. So you can slice your data. So a pivot table is just a summary of a table. You can pivot it and you can slice through that data to apply filters for criteria. In this case, our criteria is Work Center, and we can look at this Work Center, 3.7 setup hours. We can look at this, 5.4. We can look at this machine, 234, and we can look at this Work Center, 0.2. Okay, that took 10 minutes just to do that. Wow. Well, I'm out of here. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to go to bed. I hope this is helpful to you. Don't like, don't subscribe. But tune in next week. We'll be doing more on pivot tables. Thanks for watching.